Beloved, this moment found you for a reason. You didn't pause here by chance. And this stirring in your spirit is not emotional coincidence. God intentionally led you here because something urgent has touched the divine heart. What you're encountering now carries responsibility. It carries purpose. And it carries consequence. God is calling you to help a woman whose life is divinely connected to yours. Not later. Not when it feels logical. Not when all the details are clear. There are sacred moments when obedience becomes the bridge for someone else's breakthrough, protection, or survival. This is one of those moments. You may not yet understand who she is or why your heart feels unsettled, but heaven does. God never forms random connections. When two lives are linked, it's because what you carry unlocks something she needs. And what she carries unlocks something you cannot reach alone. This is not about pity. It's about purpose. She is not an interruption. She is an intersection arranged by God. What you do next matters more than you realize. Compassion, when acted upon, releases doors that prayer alone cannot open. Carry each other's burdens, and in this way you will fulfill the law of Christ. God is watching how you move when heaven speaks quietly but urgently. Stay open. There is more unfolding. This is one of those crossroads moments where heaven is quietly leaning in, observing what you do next. The reason your heart feels stirred is simple. This encounter isn't random. God doesn't only guide our direction. He guides our timing. When someone is brought into your awareness with urgency, it's rarely casual. Spiritual urgency is not panic, and it's not pressure. It's alignment. It's God highlighting what matters now, not later. Because there is weight on this moment. Here's what you need to understand. God is fully able to handle everything on His own. One word from the divine could shift an entire situation. Yet again and again, a different way is chosen, not because of lacking power, but because of loving partnership. Heaven weaves answers through human obedience. Divine comfort arrives in someone's voice. Provision comes through someone's hands. Rescue manifests in someone's decision to show up. That's how God often moves, not only from heaven to earth, but through people to people. And somehow in divine wisdom, you were chosen. Not because you're flawless, not because you feel ready, but because you're available and you're positioned. God has a pattern of calling the willing before the qualified. You're not asked to be impressive. You're asked to be obedient. Because obedience is where miracles find a doorway. Throughout Scripture, God's help often arrives wearing human skin. A timely presence. A courageous yes. A person who doesn't look like a miracle, but becomes one. That's why this woman matters. She isn't an interruption. She is part of your assignment. There is something you carry that she needs, and something connected to her that will shape what's next for you. Destiny isn't only revealed through big dramatic moments. Sometimes it's revealed through compassion that costs you something, through kindness that feels inconvenient, through a nudge you can't explain but can't shake. This is what will be released the moment you obey. Movement. Not just for her, but for you. Because obedience is a bridge. It connects God's power with a human need. It turns prayer into provision. It turns waiting into breakthrough. And sometimes, without realizing it, you become the answer to a prayer you never heard. Somewhere, someone has been asking God for help, and God has been preparing a willing heart nearby. That's how heaven responds, not always with thunder, but with an assignment. We are God's fellow workers. That isn't poetic language. It's a calling. It means God invites you into what is already being done and gives you the honor of participating. And it also means your response carries weight, not to shame you, but to awaken you. You're not just observing a moment. You're standing inside it. So if you feel that gentle insistence in your spirit, don't minimize it. Don't talk yourself out of it. Do not despise these small beginnings, because what looks small in your hands can become massive in God's plan. This is a divine intersection, and what you do next matters more than you think. Many people miss their destiny because they expect purpose to arrive loudly. They wait for recognition, applause, or a moment that feels big enough to prove it matters. But God rarely works that way. Scripture shows us a quieter truth. Destiny often enters disguised as something ordinary, inconvenient, or easy to ignore. What looks small on the surface can carry eternal weight. Before God entrusts influence, obedience is watched. Before platforms, there are private decisions. Before visible impact, there is unseen faithfulness. God examines the heart long before enlarging the assignment. What feels insignificant to you may be shaping something far greater than you realize. Whoever can be trusted with very little can also be trusted with much. This is not encouragement. It is a spiritual principle. Ruth didn't set out to secure a future or change history. She chose loyalty in a hard season. By staying faithful to Naomi, she unknowingly stepped into a legacy that would touch generations. Her destiny unfolded not through ambition, but through quiet devotion. David didn't arrive on the battlefield chasing greatness. He was simply obeying his father, delivering food, ready to go back home. That simple act placed him exactly where God needed him to be. Service led him into destiny without him even realizing it. And when Jesus spoke of the Good Samaritan, he wasn't highlighting status or position. He revealed God's heart through compassion. Mercy, not magnitude, became the lesson. Sometimes the most powerful revelation of the divine flows through simple kindness, not public moments. This is how heaven often works. When you help the right person at the right time, God moves on your behalf in ways you could never plan. Favor responds to alignment, not ambition. Doors open that effort alone cannot unlock. What feels like an interruption may actually be an invitation. What looks small may be massive in the spirit. If helping her feels quiet, unseen, or inconvenient, don't dismiss it. Purpose doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it whispers. And when you respond, you may find that obedience wasn't pulling you away from destiny at all, but leading you straight into your next season. There are moments when the Spirit presses in because timing matters. Not everything in the kingdom unfolds slowly. Heaven moves with intention and precision. And when urgency is present, it is not meant to stir fear. It is meant to bring alignment. God is drawing your attention now because this window is open for a reason. Not forever, not later. Delayed obedience does not anger God, but it can delay outcomes. This is not punishment. It is principle. Obedience keeps spiritual momentum flowing. When we hesitate, that flow can slow. Not because God withdraws, but because sequence matters. God is not rushing you. Divine work is protecting the order of what is being built. There is a rhythm to obedience, and when we move in step with it, things unfold with grace. When we resist it, unnecessary friction appears. What feels like urgency is often mercy, guarding you from missing what is available in this moment. There are seasons when God speaks gently, and others when heaven speaks clearly and without negotiation. Some instructions come with space to process. Others come with clarity because they carry consequence. For everything there is a season, and a time for every purpose under heaven. Timing is not pressure, it is wisdom. What you are facing right now is time sensitive. Needs left unattended grow heavier. Moments ignored do not always announce their closing. God remains faithful regardless, but the invitation is to respond while the door is still open. Your response now carries more weight than you realize. This is not only about helping someone else. It is also about who you are becoming in the process. Every assignment has a dual purpose. There is impact outward and formation inward. God is not only addressing a situation in front of you. Divine work is shaping your heart through it. God cares deeply about the condition of your inner life. Because character is what sustains destiny when responsibility increases. Platforms may elevate, but only character can hold weight long term. And character is often formed in unseen moments of obedience. Compassion doesn't arrive fully formed within us. It develops over time through deliberate practice. True compassion is grown, not given. Every time the divine places another person's struggle before you, something within you is being expanded. Your ability to move beyond what's comfortable, to step past the walls of self-preservation. Each act of genuine care tenderizes what was once guarded. A heart made soft through repeated choosing becomes a heart made ready for greater assignments. Simultaneously, these divine assignments hone your ability to perceive what truly matters. Life presents countless demands on your attention. Not all of them carry heaven's fingerprints. Some disruptions are merely distractions. Others are disguised destiny. The skill of distinguishing between noise and signal, between random interruption and sacred appointment, is acquired through practice. This spiritual discernment isn't developed in seasons of ease. It's forged in the moments when you must choose what deserves your response. Clarity comes through action, not through contemplation alone. At the same time, something foundational shifts in your relationship with the divine. Faith isn't strengthened by certainty. It's strengthened by stepping forward when certainty is absent. The choice to move when you can only see the next step, not the entire staircase, builds spiritual muscle that theory never could. Heaven watches carefully how you respond when obedience costs you something, when no audience applauds, when your faithfulness remains invisible to everyone except God. These private moments of costly obedience, the choices made in obscurity, the sacrifices noticed by no one, form the foundation upon which public responsibility will later rest. Do not merely listen to the word and so deceive yourselves. Do what it says. Faith is completed through movement. Helping her is not charity. It is alignment. It is cooperation with God's process and participation in what is already being done in ways you may not see yet. This act is preparing you for what is coming next. God never wastes obedience. What you do in hidden faithfulness quietly prepares the ground for future responsibility. And here is the hope you need to hold. When God asks something of you, you have already been equipped. You are not lacking. You are not behind. You are not unqualified. God does not call people because they are ready. Heaven prepares them because they are willing. Even now, you are being shaped for the next chapter of your life. What you release in obedience returns with growth. What you sow in love multiplies in ways you cannot control. At the right time, the Lord will make it happen. Consider how consistently this pattern appears throughout Scripture. Moses spent 40 years in the wilderness before he led anyone out of Egypt. Joseph endured years of slavery and imprisonment before administering a nation's resources. Esther lived in obscurity in a foreign palace before her moment of courage saved a people. None of these individuals knew they were being prepared. They simply remained faithful in their current assignment, often humble, often hidden, often misunderstood. But God was weaving their obedience into something far larger than they could perceive in the moment. Your willingness to help this woman may feel like a small act, but in the spiritual realm, Small acts performed in obedience carry disproportionate weight. The widow who gave her last 2 coins didn't just give money, she gave everything. And Jesus immortalized that moment not because of the amount, but because of the heart behind it. What you carry to this intersection matters less than the fact that you showed up when heaven called. God doesn't need your abundance. He watches for your availability. He doesn't measure your capacity. He measures your willingness. Here's what makes divine assignments so profound. They are rarely one-directional. When God connects you to someone, both parties are positioned for transformation. You think you're being sent to help her, and you are. But heaven is also positioning her to unlock something in you. Perhaps it's a lesson in compassion you couldn't learn any other way. Perhaps it's a door that will only open through this connection. Perhaps it's a characteristic of God you'll only witness by watching how He provides through you for her need. Perhaps it's a testimony that will become your greatest encouragement in a future season. Divine intersections are multidimensional. Surface assignments often carry deeper purposes. What looks like you blessing her may simultaneously be God blessing you through her. This is the mystery of kingdom mathematics. When you give, you receive. When you serve, you're shaped. When you obey, you're entrusted with more. Let's speak plainly about what happens when we delay obedience. God's love doesn't withdraw. His calling doesn't evaporate. But momentum can be lost. Windows can close. Opportunities can pass. This isn't about manipulation or fear. It's about reality. Time moves in one direction. Moments don't pause indefinitely. People in crisis don't have the luxury of waiting for convenient responses. When heaven highlights something urgent, it's because the situation is urgent. Not hysterical, not panicked, but time-sensitive. And your obedience or hesitation will shape outcomes in ways you may never fully see. Consider Jonah, who delayed his assignment and ended up in a fish. Eventually, he obeyed, and Nineveh was spared. But the delay cost him unnecessary hardship. Consider the 10 virgins waiting for the bridegroom. 5 were ready when he arrived. 5 weren't. The door closed, and their delay became permanent loss. These aren't stories designed to terrify you. They're patterns designed to instruct you. When God speaks, the appropriate response is movement. Not perfection, but action. Not certainty, but trust. So what actually happens when you step into this assignment? What unfolds when you obey? First, you position yourself in the stream of God's activity. You're no longer watching from the shore, you're in the current. And that current carries momentum, provision, and purpose that passivity never touches. Second, you trigger reciprocity in the spiritual realm. The measure you use will be measured back to you. When you become the answer to someone's prayer, you position yourself to receive answers to your own. This isn't transactional, it's relational. God honors those who honor His heart for others. Third, you build a track record of faithfulness that qualifies you for greater responsibility. Every act of obedience becomes part of your testimony. Every time you say yes to God, you're writing a story that will one day encourage others. Fourth, you experience the joy of partnership with heaven. There's a unique satisfaction that comes from knowing you were exactly where you were supposed to be, doing exactly what you were called to do. That alignment produces peace that surpasses understanding. Fifth, you participate in someone's breakthrough. You become the human face of God's love. Your hands become His hands. Your resources become His provision. Your presence becomes His comfort. And that privilege, being used by God, is worth more than anything earthly success could offer. This isn't a guilt trip. It's an invitation. Heaven is extending an opportunity for you to step into something significant. Not significant by worldly standards, but significant in eternal terms. You don't need to have everything figured out. You don't need to feel fully prepared. You simply need to be willing, because when you bring your willingness, God brings everything else. Do not ignore this stirring in your spirit. Do not reason yourself out of obedience. Do not underestimate the power of one faithful response. Move when God says move. Stand in the gap. Help her. Because when you say yes to God's assignment, you are also saying yes to the future He has been preparing for you. And this moment right here may be the key that unlocks everything you have been praying for. What does obedience look like from here? It looks like taking the next small step. Not the 10th step, the next one. Reach out. Make contact. Offer help. Ask what she needs. Put action to the stirring in your spirit. It looks like trusting God with the outcome. You're not responsible for fixing everything. You're responsible for showing up faithfully. Heaven handles the rest. It looks like moving even when it's inconvenient, even when it costs you something, even when no one else would understand. Because you're not answering to everyone else. You're answering to the one who called you. It looks like releasing control of how your obedience will be received. She may respond with gratitude or suspicion. She may welcome your help or question your motives. Your job isn't to manage her response. Your job is to deliver what heaven sent you to deliver. This moment matters. What you choose to do now is shaping what comes next. God is not rushing you, but the invitation has been extended. Stay attentive, stay willing, and trust that as you respond, heaven is already responding too. The bridge is before you. Cross it. Someone is waiting on the other side, and your obedience is the connection that will change both of your lives forever.